Hello and welcome to the second session of Brindlewood Bay. This is a mystery game powered by the Apocalypse, which is available from the Gauntlet. You can find it on Drive-Thru RPG, and it's about a group of mavens in a New England town. They're investigating mysteries, but there's also a darker secret that lies behind the scenes that we're going to see pieces of and maybe even see more of than we saw last time today. And this session is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts. You can find out more about that at gauntlet-rpgi.com. It's right now the 12th. Next weekend, Thursday through Sunday, we're doing a free online game con. So you can go to gauntlet-rpg.com, find the details there, and sign up for games. We've got, I would say, about half the games completely filled, and another bunch that have some seats, and then a few that really could use a little more. We've got Rich Rogers playtesting his Working Stiffs zombie workplace comedy game, and it has seats open. And Rich is a rock star. So just to tell you, we're going to be taking up with our games for following up from our last session. For the players, to mention, I took the NPCs and clues that we developed last time, and I put them on an NPCs and clues Dad Overboard mystery tab. And then we have another new tab for tonight's mystery with pictures for the NPCs that were brought up last time, and actually pictures of all the suspects for today. Just so we have all that on the board ahead of time. So just to tell you what's up with that. Before we go too much further, just to remind everyone what our safety tools are. X card, obviously, on the table, but we also are using lines and veils. And our lines are on childhood abandonment, harm to animals, harm to children, homophobia, mind control, sexual assault, and torture by the PCs. And then our veil is on sexual content. Anything like that, we will fade to black on. So to start us out today, we're going to go through and going to have everybody give us the elevator pitch on their character and tell us which of the XP advancement picks they want to have on the table. Again, the first one, do the Murder Maven Solve Mystery, is always on the table. But then we have to pick two other ones for XP there. So let's start with Will. Will, give us the elevator pitch on Rosemary.
Well, Rosemary is a retired literary editor who was married to a best-selling real crime author, who committed accidental suicide, overdosing on his medication whilst investigating a new book in Brindlewood Bay. And Rosemary has never believed that's the case, and so she has stayed in Brindlewood Bay and made a life for herself here, but always, she has these dreams that tell her that maybe she's onto something when it comes to those suspicions.
And we'll come back. One of the things I've noticed in the rules is it doesn't say you clear conditions between sessions, so you're still shaken. Mm-hmm. Weeks later, that's still that undercurrent lies with you. What do you want as your two end of session questions for Rosemary?
I think I would like, did I show someone that I've still got it? And did I share wisdom with a young person? I'll just go for different ones than I took last time.
Excellent. All right. We're going to move across the character sheet. Dan, tell us about Barbara.
Sure. Barbara goes by Bobby. She moved to Brindlewood Bay maybe 10, 12 years ago, retiring with her husband, who shortly died of cancer. She had been dabbling in antique jewelry in her retirement. She moved to Brindlewood Bay to be closer to her children, who live in Boston. One's an academic and one's a high-powered executive. She is known around town as being that kind of New Yorker who complains about the quality of the bagels nearby or in town.
Excellent. And what do you want as your two end of session?
I love these questions, by the way. I think I'm also going to change it up and say, did you share your wisdom with a young person? And did you behave like a woman half your age?
Excellent, excellent. And then we come to Sabine. Sabine, give us the story of Violet.
Okay, Violet is a former librarian, retired, but still works at the library because she kind of can't keep away from books. She likes bookbinding, taking damaged books home with her and repairing them lovingly. Violet is usually a bit shy, but she can be pretty insistent, and she does not like the sheriff. She does not think highly of him. I think we learned that last time.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've chosen for my end of session questions that you secretly undermine the authority of a local official, because I mean, yeah, she likes doing that. And I've changed the other one to, did you share a memory of a late family member, because I haven't done that yet.
Excellent, excellent.
Oh, and I forgot about late family member. She is widowed. She was divorced before she was widowed. Her husband Barney was a real estate guy, I guess, who left her for a woman half her age, which she took with a bit of relief, actually. She has a son who's married and lives in Hollywood, basically. So, yeah.
Excellent. All the way across the country. Let us then, last but not least, hear about Ruby.
Sure. Ruby uses she, her pronouns. She is Brindlewood born and bred. Was married to a third generation lobsterman who had an untimely end while out lobstering. In fact, his body was not found. Her career was the greatest career of all. She was a mother to two, and she raised Jennifer and Jonathan to be other than working in the family business and sticking around in Maine. No matter how beautiful, not as many opportunities. Jonathan lives in Boston, and Jennifer escaped completely and moved to Chicago.
Excellent. And what do you want as your two picks?
I am going to go with Did You Act Like a Woman Half Your Age? And did you show someone You've Still Got It?
Okay.
And do we uncheck the ones that we did the last time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Use the check boxes to mark which ones you've chosen for this session.
Yep.
So we're going to take up a few weeks later. I'm going to talk about what that is, and then we're going to do the start of session moves, and then we're going to do some cozy scenes to get a sense of things. So as you know, a few weeks ago, you were able to solve the Krause murder. Since then, it has been complicated. Amanda Krause is out on bail, and it's becoming increasingly clear to you that the district attorney is probably not going to prosecute her, that there's a lot of money at play in this. Your friend, the doctor, Dr. Jones, you have the sense that she's gotten pressure about her testimony and has been quiet about it, that there's some forces at play there, a lot of money in the works. There's the beginning of a civil lawsuit happening from the rest of her family towards Amanda Krause, but she has remained above it, and in fact has returned to her apparently childhood home back here in Brindlewood Bay, and has been seen around town, spending money freely. Every once in a while, you might see her passing. That Etienne Beauregard, the fishmonger who was good friends with her husband, has been very vocal about her being awful. It's a little suspicious that he had a minor heart attack last week. He's up and moving again, but that was a little strange. But that is the situation that we find ourselves in as we return. We get the establishing shots of that, and we probably hear the voiceover of "Tonight on Brindlewood Bay," and we would see the title card of the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off as the title card that comes up. But we're going to roll to our start of session moves. Ruby, what is your like your morning routine? Are you are you in a house, an apartment? Remind me of that.
I have an older house.
Okay.
It's nicely kept. I've got a decent garden to attract as many birds as I can. I'll generally, if the weather's nice, which this time of year in Maine, it always is. In fact, there's no such thing as bad weather in Maine. There's just bad clothing. And I'm having my tea and let's say a muffin with fresh Maine wild blueberries, of course, out on the back patio, and looking for and listening to whatever birds delight me that morning.
And I think as you're doing that, you will hear a knock from the front screen door.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll definitely go respond to it.
Walk through the house slowly. And when you get towards the door, you can see there's no one there. But someone has put fishing lures on your screen in a kind of an odd pattern. Like it almost seems random for a second, but as you approach, you'll recognize that they are your husband's old like fly fishing lures. Handmade, that kind of thing would have been in his tackle box, but there they are. Someone has stuck them in there, maybe a dozen and a half of them.
And they're in a specific pattern, or they just seem randomly placed to me? You
step back, kind of look at it. It's very hard to tell, but if you were to read it as a constellation, maybe it might look like a mermaid.
I get the chills for sure. This is Jonathan took these with him. These should not be here. Oof. I'm going to quickly take them down.
Let's cut to Rosemary. Rosemary, I think that you are out having coffee, though not at the book place. No, or sorry, not the place where you the typical coffee house.
The Book Nook, I think it's called.
You're at like a little outdoor table, and you've got your espresso there, and as you're sitting there and waiting, you look up as you hear the chair pulled out, and you see Amanda Krause sits down across from you.
Why, Amanda, do make yourself comfortable, dear.
Oh, I will.
You didn't like the accommodation over at the county jail?
It was adequate to the kinds of facilities you'd find around this place.
Yes, well, I thought it was quite adequate to a woman of your standing, but apparently I was wrong.
We don't need to spar. We don't need to duel verbally. There's no need for that. We have a lot in common.
And what would that be other than dead husbands?
I would say dead husbands who passed away under mysterious circumstances.
Indeed, I, however, did not push my husband off a boat.
Neither did I.
And that's why you came to the house with a gun.
That was misunderstanding, certainly. Now. Look, I'm sure you have questions about what happened to your husband.
I do, but I have my doubts about whether or not you would be the person to answer them.
Well, let me allay your doubts. And she reaches out and she puts her hand on top of yours, and you can see it feels cold, and you look down and you can see the scaly hand and the webbed fingers and the water that begins to pour out onto the table and then washes onto your lap. And she says, "We know. He looked too deeply. But you're welcome to stare into the depths." And then you wake up.
Mm.
So, what we do at the start of session is we do a little cozy vignette from each of you to tell us sort of what you're doing. Give us a sense of who you are and establish some of that. So let's start with Barbara, with Bobby. Bobby, what's a scene that tells us something about your routine or your daily life, maybe something we didn't know from before?
I think Brindlewood Bay is known for its antiquing, so there are several antique shops downtown, and this is the day that she goes and kind of makes her way through them just to see what is new and to chat up the folks who run those shops, see if they've got a bead on anything new. She carries around with her that mermaid brooch. And sometimes shows it to the folks there, even though they've all seen it before, just to see. She's been trying to sort of figure out what this brooch is all about ever since she got to Brindlewood Bay. So she brings it and has conversations with the folks about if they learned anything new or saw anything new that might explain this brooch.
And you focus on sort of small jewelry and such, right?
Yes.
And as you're antiquing and you're talking to one of the people again, you'll hear this woman about your age say, "Excuse me. May I take a look at that?"
By all means. Do you know much about antique jewelry?
She goes, "No, but it's very strange. My grandmother is from here. We're just passing through on the way up to Bangor. But I remember that she had a brooch like that same design."
I missed that. You said you ran into a woman who has
No, it was my grandmother. I remember when I was very young, she had a jewelry case that she kept locked, and I remember a couple of times I went through it and played with the things. And I remember that being in there. I remember it because the time that she saw that I had it out, she became furious and locked up her jewelry after that. That was just before she died.
Was it this one or was it like this one?
It was similar. Like the design was very much like that.
Did she ever tell you where she got it from?
No, she didn't have a chance. She drowned the next week.
Oh my goodness. That's interesting. And tell me your name.
Janicek.
And are you staying in town?
No, we're heading on, but my mother still lives here in Brindlewood Bay, though she's not as lucid as she used to be.
Oh, I understand that. Perhaps I can go meet with her.
Well, maybe. I have to get going, but it was such a weird coincidence.
Yeah, thanks for chatting. Thanks for giving me that information.
And she will head off. Violet, give us a sense, a scene, a cozy bit that we might see with you that tells us something that we maybe didn't know about you.
I think what we see is Violet. She is in the library. She's helping out as she usually does, because the person, the librarian who works here, she has more than one. She has 3 or 4 kids, and she has to run after them because some of them are teenagers, and it's complicated. And so she has to run out a lot. And Violet takes over. That's not exactly how it's supposed to work, and we can then see that there is some city official standing there and questioning her about where what's her name, Miss Chandler Miss Chandler is, and Violet is very much plays a bit the flustered old woman, like, oh, she was here a minute ago, and I had to have my medicine, and she went to the pharmacy for me, and she's so nice. And and then that person will leave not very satisfied. But what can you do with a flustered old woman who's just asking you if you want some cake, and if she should bake some, but not with gluten, because that's bad for your she's read it somewhere, and she just goes off certain tangents, like she's totally confused, and when he's going, she rolls her eyes and sits up a little straighter. And one of the kids that is in the library looks at her like, what was that about? And she's like, what? He was asking. Sometimes when people ask questions, you have to give them lots of answers.
Let me ask you a question about the library.
Mm-hmm.
Probably older building,
Yeah.
established. What kinds of books does this library have in strange abundance? Like the kinds of books or topics that you wouldn't normally expect to have in this small town library. What kinds of books?
I think what you wouldn't necessarily expect is that there are so many rare and old books. Like usually libraries have old books, but they don't lend them. They don't borrow them to the general public, because these are rare books, and you don't want everybody to go to the swimming pool with them and then drop them in, or have their dog run away with them or something like that. But they have a lot of these. Actually, there are lots of books that are in leather bound and have been handwritten and things like that. And maybe you can't take them with you, but you can go and read them in the library.
A little quiet reading room to look at those things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Ruby, let's come to you. Let's get a scene that might tell us something about you. Last time, I remember you using your birding as a means of overhearing gossip.
Mm-hmm.
What do we see this time?
This time, I leave the house with a basket, some of the extra muffins. A dozen muffins is a lot for me. And I go visit 2 of my friends who are actually older than us, 2 women, let's say Jane and Margaret, both of which without family, but still living on their own into their early 80s, lovely women, and dropping off some food, just chatting, making sure they got some company that day.
And they ask, how you're doing. They say, we've actually had a couple of people check in from the local Meals on Wheels recently.
That's good. Had you signed up for that, or?
Yes. But I was very surprised to see Miss Krause. She's apparently volunteering.
Well, that's new. I would have never suspected.
Yeah, just doesn't. I mean, I know that you heard that she was involved in some shenanigans with you, but she seemed very nice.
Well, some people are very good at seeming very nice. At least, I mean, if she brought you meals, at least if she didn't make them, trust them. I'm sure they're safe.
There's an
But
ominous
if she says
pause.
anything, certainly try to engage her in some talk. And if she says anything interesting, let me know.
All right, all right. And then let's come to our still somewhat shaken Rosemary. What about for you?
Hmm. So are we doing cozy moves as in because they are supposed to be with another maven, I believe.
No, so this is just a scene, a vignette to give us a
scene.
sense of who you are, kind of start a session.
Well, I think that you see Rose is sat in that table on the beachfront cafe, exactly where she had a dream, and still looking quite shaken, looking down into a pot of coffee in there, and staring deep into the reflection of her eyes that she can see within that, and just everybody else is having cozy stuff. Rose is dealing with some things.
What of the things that you saw that were strange last time, the visions that you had, which one sticks with you the most?
I think it is. So I had the dream last time of Arthur's body turning into the husband, and I also saw something move, I think, in the body, like the eyes open on the dead body, wasn't it? I think it's this latest dream, though, that's really sticking with the most. It's the idea that maybe there was more to that last mystery than we just, Amanda, not Amanda Krauss, but my dream of Amanda Krauss told me that there was something deeper. And I think Rose has been dealing with these dreams for a long time, on and off,
And I think as you're sitting there, there is that bit where you get that all those little pieces of deja vu, like the sound of laughter that you remember from the dream from the next table, the seagull landing on the railing, all of that, and the kind of wait and wait, but Amanda Krauss never comes, and then the tide of that feeling kind of pulls back. And now we have a mystery. All right. This mystery is complexity 7, just so everyone knows what the complexity is of that. So we take up a little while later. The town has a lot of tourists that are kind of packed in for this big special event that is going on. So as you may know, the Jolly Good Baking Show is a very popular British television show. It's been on the BBC, on Netflix, and so on. It's incredibly popular, and they have come to the States to do a series of local regional contests with some preliminary rounds that actually leads up to some televised things. And they've got a tent set up outside of town. They've got, the actors and judges' trailers around. It's very big, and lots of people have decided to join in on this, compete with their homemade recipes, or as Ruby mentioned earlier, their muffins that have been baked. Let me ask Rosemary. This baking show is related to one of your favorite memories. like it features in that. What is that memory that you have that makes you very fond of this show? Rosemary?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said
That's okay.
Ruby. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
My bad. See our names. What makes me very fond of this show is, well, it is run by a woman who's, I've grown up with, who has been a baker, a legendary culinary artist, the Mary Berry type, right?
Yes,
And
Jane Leaf. Yes.
Jane Leaf, yes. So we are slightly younger, I think, than Mary Berry or Jane Leaf, in fact. But well, Arthur always used to like those scones that she taught me how to make, and it was most delicious. And every Sunday, I would make another thing from Jane's wonderful cookbook.
Absolutely. She has a whole series of those, and she's experienced something of a renaissance. Her and Paul Riviera are the two judges, and they are very, very popular. And as it happens, you four have all managed to get in to the contest and pass the preliminary qualifying rounds. And so our scene is actually going to start in this big tent. And in fact, just to help me out here, let me quickly change my background here. Get that up. And let me add that. There we go. That should help set the scene a little bit there. So this big tent, the production values are enormous. They've got the table set up. They've got the refrigerators there. There's the wind kind of whipping through the tent. The salt air comes in. Now you get a chance to see where all the cameramen and cameras are at and working around here. And you have passed these first few rounds, and it's down essentially to you four plus two other contestants. One of them, Melanie Blair, who's a local who used to run a bakery here in town, who has made it through despite being a little frazzled, and Scott Lamb, who you're pretty sure is a ringer, like. He moved into town maybe a month ago, and that there's some history between him and a previous season of the show, but he is there. So this is the pie section of the contest right now, and there is that you're given 2.5 hours. You're given some basics on that. And this is the first time that they've actually started to have the cameras in there, and they're recording and stopping you and talking to you and all of that. So with that in mind, let me ask Bobby, what kind of pie are you making?
I think Bobby's a pretty strong baker, but pie is just not her thing. So she sticks with apple pie. Thing she would make for holidays back when everyone was younger, and so she's sticking with something that she knows.
And Paul Riviera goes, well, that's a very safe choice for you, wouldn't you say?
It is a safe choice, but there's apple pie and then there's apple pie, and you can do it or you can do it to perfection. And I think you will find that this apple pie takes things to a whole nother level.
Well, that's a high bar. We shall see. And he and Jane Leaf will move on. The cameras kind of come around you there. We'll check back to find out whether it is a triumph or rather disappointing in just a moment. Violet, when they come to you, what kind of pie is Violet making?
I think Violet is actually not that bad at pie making, but she doesn't know how she got into this. She's very camera shy. She is not, she's FaceTiming with her son and he's giving her pointers because he's a director in Hollywood. So, but she freezes every time the camera is put on her. Like, what am I supposed to do here? But as if they leave her alone to do her baking, she will, and I am totally unable to give you any amount of pie lore here.
Fair enough.
But I think she will do something with cream and crumbles and maple syrup and walnuts and stuff like that.
Jane says, well, that seems very, very sweet.
Yeah, it's pie. I mean, isn't it supposed to be sweet?
Well, there's a certain amount of yes. Well, I do like a sweet pie, so I will be very excited to see how this comes out. And the judges will move on, and the cameraman kind of pauses there.
And I think you were here when they leave, and Violet is unaware that the camera is still rolling, muttering like, "I can put some salt in it if you like, so it tastes more like fish or something."
The cameraman kind of stops and says, "Hey, I can tell you were nervous, but you did a great job there. Don't worry. The trick is not to listen to him too closely on these preliminaries, okay?"
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Buck will move on to the next contestant there. And we come to Ruby. Ruby, what kind of pie would you make?
Well, I'm making a blueberry and lavender pie, and on the top, I'll be cutting out the shape of a hummingbird.
And you got that, and you see that Sue Mellon, one of the presenters, has come over and is kind of hovering around you, and she's like, "Is that a bird? Is that a bird? I heard that you're a birder."
I am. I lifelong. I didn't bring my diary, but if I had, I would have loved to shown it to you.
So no 4 and 20 blackbirds in this, though, right?
Well, I thought about it, but I didn't think that it would go over as well as blueberry.
Oh, well, good luck. Good luck. Let us hope you do well. And she will move on. And finally, Rosemary, what kind of pie are you making?
I'm making my signature sweet potato pecan pie.
And you will see that Boosh, Timothy Boosh, is kind of hovering there. So this is a potato pie?
Why, yes, young man, it's a sweet potato pie. You know what a sweet potato is?
Isn't that a yam?
Well, you are right. It is a yam, but I am sure that you will enjoy this sweet potato pie with this delicious pecan and cinnamon flavors.
Oh, I see what you did there. Oh, you're gonna run me out of a job here if you keep doing those puns. That's my job.
Well, I would not look as good in your jeans.
Oh, well, fair enough. Turns, shakes his butt for the camera, and moves on there. The other contestants, we can see that our producer is moving around and he hovers behind the others and it's this Heath Hendricks and keeps doing this countdown when things come up, and wherever everyone else is kind of maybe a little bit more relaxed and polite, he is definitely, there trying to keep things on track. And you will see him get into it a little bit with the contestant, Scott Lamb. You have the sense that maybe even, there's some history there, but then they'll kind of move on. You can see that Scott Lamb has gone for a rhubarb pie, a very classic, not rhubarb and strawberries. That he had a little argument with Paul Riviera that rhubarb alone wasn't good, and that seemed to have gotten settled out. But they move on from that, and then they've come to Melanie Blair, who is in tears because she's also making an apple pie. And she didn't realize that Bobby was making an apple pie. And, she's trying, and, I'm trying a classic thing, maybe do a glaze and so on. And you can tell that maybe she's midstream changing up what she's going to do or how she's going to do it, because she's panicked that another contestant is also doing the same kind of pie. Which brings us to Bobby. Bobby, this apple pie, is it a triumph or rather disappointing?
I think for her it's a really good apple pie, but it's just fine. It's
just
not
fine.
Really anything
just,
special.
Just a little disappointing then.
Yeah, it was like good enough for her family, who are not especially food connoisseurs. So that's how she made it.
And let me ask Violet, what makes that pie? What's a little disappointing or a little ordinary about it?
Well, it's just like that pie you can get at the supermarket, basically, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's okay. You can eat it. It's fine. It's a lot of fun to eat it, but there is no originality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's what Paul Revere is like. I can go and get this from the 7-Eleven. I think you have Hostess fruit pies. I think this is probably about that same level.
Hey now, there. I could put a few special ingredients in here, but like I said, this is not my area of expertise, and it didn't even occur to me to put a pattern on the top. Otherwise, I would have put a nice Brindlewood Bay mermaid on the top. But I thought flavor was more important than presentation.
Well, it would have been good to have at least that. And you're sent back to your table. Let us come then to Violet. Violet, is your pie a triumph or rather disappointing?
I think it would have been a triumph if this guy hadn't hovered near Violet. It made her totally nervous, so she kind of miscalculated a little on how much salt should actually go in there, because it takes a little salt to make a very sweet pie. But maybe it was a bit too much, really. I mean, it's not a catastrophe, but it's kind of weird experimental taste to it, and a hipster would love it, but not everybody would.
And Riviera, takes a bite, and then he looks at you, and he looks back down at the pie. Then he looks at you again. He says, "Is that salt I'm tasting?"
Yeah, maybe. Shouldn't taste it, but yeah.
Well, I can.
Oh.
Let me ask Ruby. Ruby, what is another critique that is made of Violet's poor sweet salty pie?
What were the fillings in your pie again, Violet?
I think it's a cream and some sort of nutty stuff thing. Tastes better in my mind.
I think it's like this poor version of like a spiced pie, like a minced pie. but everything's just off. The raisins just, they don't have the flavor. It's, you know, to somebody who's used to a mince pie, this is an offense.
And I think there's that moment where Jane Leaf goes, well, I think we want to at least commend you for the bravery in experimenting here today with this pie. It's a very brave thing you've done here. He's like, reaction? Say something, come on.
I've got to go.
And he's like, all right, we'll work with that. Then Ruby, is your pie a triumph or a disaster?
I think it's both. It's got a however. I think it's a delicious pie. However, it has lavender, and for those who are sensitive to herbs such as lavender or other kind of usually used in herbal tea herbs, it tastes a little bit grassy. To those who love it, it's delicious. To those who don't, it's the cilantro effect, basically.
Riviera leans forward. Lavender's a very strong flavor.
And quite delicious.
Used judiciously, but this is like a Yankee Candle that I'm tasting in my mouth here.
Well, it'll keep you lit all day.
And the cameraman's like getting the shot in. Here's some laughter. Riviera kind of narrows. You see Boosh a little frowny, like again, more people are taking his comedy there. Sue is just moving around in the background, kind of laughing. Rosemary, what is another thing that is slightly off about this pie that the judges are going to pick up on?
I think the crust is a bit burned on the bottom.
He says, well, at least there's not a soggy bottom, but maybe you shouldn't have roasted it so darkly there. Did you blind bake it?
Well, I pre-baked it, and I guess I just put it in for too long. You know how it is sometimes. Things are just too long.
I'm not going to touch that line. And they will cut away there. Rosemary, your pie, triumph or disappointment?
Well, I based it off one of Jane's recipes, so it must be a triumph.
Absolutely. And tell me, Barbara, what is the thing that the judges are they react to it, that they're very pleased about it with Rosemary's pie?
I think one change that Rosemary made to Jane's recipe is that she put ginger in it, and so it kind of lights up the flavor in a new way, whereas the pie was kind of flat before. This really just electrified it.
And Jane Leaf is very excited. Oh, and how much ginger? Is it fresh grated, or is it powdered, or did you use crystal?
Fresh grated, of course, my dear. I mean, I would not want to just use any old product in something as, one of your recipes.
Oh, just very, very good. Really striking. Paul Revere is like, yeah, I don't like it in this. Yeah, I suppose it's fine.
All right. That's all right, Paul. I don't like it in your mouth either.
Oh. And there's a whoa, the audience, there's some clapping there, and you can see he does not like that response at all. But they will move on, and it's sort of that midday. The tent gets hot. It's warm in here. The oven's going, and so all of you are kind of taken off to a place where you can have a lunch. They've brought that in. You can sit these tables there. You saw that that Melanie Blair's, she tried something a little more experimental and hers went over okay. The thing with Scott Lamb's rhubarb pie is that Jane Leaf clearly like loved it. She thought it was an absolute triumph, but Paul Riviera wouldn't give him the time of day on it at all. And you can see that there were some angry glances going back and forth in the midst of that. But you're seated there. You've got about a 2-hour break here in between. People are going back and forth. The judges and hosts are going back to their trailers, moving back and forth. You will probably see hovering around with a conspicuous tall glass that certainly smells like booze this early in the day. Paul Riviera's wife, Donna Riviera. She doesn't deign to associate with the contestants, and just kind of wanders around. You do see her talking to the cameraman, Buck, perhaps putting her hand on his shoulder a little bit more than you're entirely comfortable with. But she, shakes her glass, which is just down to the ice cubes, and wanders back to wherever she's getting her alcohol from. And you're there when you will hear a shriek come from over by the trailers, just and then hysterical laughter. What do you do, Bobby?
I quickly look around and I say, ladies, that sounds like our cue. And I stand up and I say, Violet, that was the best pie I have ever had. And then she sort of turns and starts making her way towards the trailers.
Violet?
Yeah, I think Violet feels quite relieved that her pie was not quite the catastrophe these people have made it out, and she will then go and follow Bobby.
And Rosemary, Ruby, trailing along as well?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll definitely see people are coming this way. You see that Timothy Bush is actually heading the other way as this is going on, but you'll rush up and you can see Sue has kind of taken a few steps back, is standing outside of Paul Riviera's trailer, and you'll see that Buck is kind of trying to comfort her or calm her down. And as you rush up and kind of look inside, you will see on the floor of Paul Riviera's trailer, he is lying there face down. His face is kind of turned to the side. You can see that there's flour all over it. And his hands are tied behind his back with beautifully plaited nylon cord. And he is very clearly dead. So we're going to do the smash cut there to Sheriff Dalrymple talking with you, Bobby. So, did you see anything?
The only thing notable that I saw was, while a lot of people were running towards the trailer, Timothy Bush, one of the hosts, was making his way away from the trailer. And the other suspicious thing is Paul Riviera's wife, Donna, was drinking a lot and, shall I say, putting her hand on other men around the set. It all seemed very suspicious to me.
Interesting. So this Bush fellow, that tall guy, you think he might have been running away from the scene of the crime?
Yes, for all I know, he was running to get help. But it was notable to me Mostly because I worry about people stealing my bicycle. So I'm always checking out to see who might be running toward my bicycle to take it.
Mm-hmm. And Violet, what's your take on this? Just asking, just hypothetical, that kind of thing. Just now that you've had a chance to be here and so on.
He was not a very kind individual, and I think he made a lot of people angry. I mean, he made me angry, and I'm very mild-mannered usually.
How angry did he make you?
He did not make me angry enough to murder him, if that's what you're insinuating, Sheriff, really.
Just asking, I know you and your ladies, a lot of deaths happen around you, but I don't think you're the killer alone.
That's
Certainly not.
That's very kind of you, dear.
And what about you, Ruby?
Well, I
Some fine knots, and you're a fisherman's wife. What do you think?
that's true, but surely I would have used better twine than nylon. I mean, that's any fool can buy that in any store. It's not going to hold somebody long term. I think I think he was suffocated with the flour.
Yeah, Doc's looking into that. We're gonna get a sense of that, but it might be a bit to get to it, figure it out. Yeah. How would you suffocate someone with flour? I don't even know how you do that thing.
I don't
Well,
know.
you simply
Why
hold
are
their
you
face
asking
down into the
me?
flour, so.
Why would you ask me? I guess tie them up and put a funnel on their mouth and dump flour down it.
Interesting. You seem to know a lot about flour. Interesting. All right.
Well, I do bake.
Fair enough. And what about you, Rosemary? What's your thought on this?
Well, you caught me, Sheriff. I did it.
He looks very excited. And then he's like, you're just joshing me, aren't you?
Of course, dear. I think it's a terrible shame that Mr. Riviera's gone. I mean, what will the show do without its cantankerous bore of a presenter?
That's a good question. I don't watch it much. I'm more of a Top Chef kind of guy, so that's more my speed, that sort of thing. So not really my slice of cake.
Well, Sheriff, you should, while you're here, would you like some of my sweet potato pie? I do believe they are quite done with.
Well, I would not say no to a piece of sweet potato pie. Rubs his hands together.
Let me get you that, sure.
And once he's eaten his fill of that, he'll say, "So, I'm going to be obviously, working and questioning here, but since since you four are sort of already in the mix, maybe you wouldn't mind like just asking a few questions around, keeping your ears open. Does that seem maybe you could just doing your civic duty, kind of pitching in?"
Of course we wouldn't mind that, dear. And if we found out that one of us was the murderer, we'll tell you post haste.
Well,
Give him a little pat.
Good. Now, again, you're pulling my leg, aren't you?
That would be very hard for me. I'm tiny.
Oh, all right. So yeah, I'm gonna continue on. If you hear anything, I understand from talking to Mr. Hendricks that they're going to keep going. Down one judge, but they've got apparently some kind of schedule to finish.
It's quite morbid.
Well, that's a little bit of my thought, but I'm no baker. And
I do believe it is what Mr. Riviera would have wanted.
You think?
I mean, I don't care, son.
He said, well, kind of hikes his gun belt up and, well, I gotta get back to investigating. So afternoon, ladies. And all the people are called back by Hendricks. And and he'll say, "So look, Paul's dead. That's a pity. However, we have a budget and a schedule, and all of you have signed off on the contract to finish out the contest. So we're going to hold you to that. We're going to finish up today, and of course, we'll start tomorrow morning with what is it on there? Pastries. Pastries is tomorrow. So you can think about what you want to do for that. I do ask that the police have asked that everyone stick around for at least the next few hours. No one is to leave town, if you can believe that cliche. We'll be back here at call sheet time 9. That should give us set up from 7 on. So stick around for the next few hours. We've got dinner comped for you, so we're all good. Go on. And he kind of disperses, and everyone still looks a little shell-shocked. So let's go to our investigation phase here. Do at least a first round of that before we go to break. Bobby, let's start with you here. As the crowd kind of disperses off in the different directions, everyone is still around on the site, kind of hovering. What do you want to do?
Where is the rest of the cast?
You can see that the other 2 contestants are standing, or seated around. Melanie looks completely frazzled now. Lamb is kind of leaning back, his elbows on the table, on a bench thing and sitting there. Boosh is, like, every time you see him, he's kind of like behind a tree or around the corner of a trailer or just past the edge of a tent. Jane is talking with the producer, and Sue looks still very thrown off by this.
I kind of want to talk to Sue, but
Okay.
I think we should do it in a pair. So
Okay.
does anyone want to join me talking to Sue?
I would love to talk to Sue because she's a very attractive woman.
Okay. So Ruby and I kind of sidle up to Sue, and I go first, and I say, "Now, this must be very upsetting for you."
Yeah, I found the body. I've never.
I know, it's very startling. It's very,
I don't even know. I mean, no. What would you say?
it's when was the last time you saw Paul before you found him like that?
Well, I just when we went on lunch, he never mingles, and so he went straight back to his trailer. That was the last time I saw him.
And what made you decide to go check his trailer? Why were you heading there?
She pauses. This is the point at which I'm going to have you roll the meddling move.
Fantastic. Sounds like something I should do. Hang on, I don't have the roller up.
Oh. Communal or fish?
I rolled a 9. Meddling move. Oh, I'm going to use. I'll use reason.
Okay.
Which is 2. Actually, I'll use composure, which gives me a 10 total roll.
Okay. So she kind of pauses, and she says, I wanted to talk to him before the afternoon started. We'd had a little healthy debate yesterday, and he'd sort of cut me off before I'd had a chance to finish what I was saying. He's a big Boris Johnson supporter, and we may have had some words about that last night in the hotel bar. Very loud words, and I felt like I had been. He had dismissed me without going into, without. And she still looks angry. Like when she flashes back to it, she's clearly still really mad.
I totally understand why you are upset. I mean, come on. We've been dealing with men like this our whole lives, haven't we?
I know.
I'm so.
Boy, how could someone as attractive as Paul Riviera support someone with hair like Boris Johnson? It makes no sense.
It doesn't, especially given Paul's proclivities. You'd think that, I mean, it is. It's disappointing.
Proclivities?
And you see her kind of look over at Scott Lamb, and then kind of looks back to you and says, well, anyway, you should, are you, so your pie was very good today, Ruby, wasn't it?
It wasn't my best work, but I enjoyed it as long as I, didn't eat the bottom.
And she kind of gestures, and I should probably go.
Okay. Well, thank you. Do you need a hug? You look like you could use a hug.
She goes, I could use a hug.
And I'll give her a nice hug and say, if you need anything, I'm here. I'm an ear. I'm whatever you need.
She says, no, you probably should have a conversation with some others like Jane.
Ooh. Well, thank you. That's good to know.
And Sue, before we let you go, which B&B in town are you staying at?
We're at the Blue Heron.
That place is lovely. I know the owner. They have some lovely pizzas.
It's haunted too, I've heard.
No, it can't be haunted. And that elicits a whole round of nervous giggling from her. Let's come to Violet, Rosemary.
Should we do a duo scene, Sabine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Who do you want to go speak to?
I think Violet would like to speak to Buck because he was nice and he seemed to be kind, and maybe he's the camera guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the camera guys, they see a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I have it as Rosemary is speaking to Buck and saying, like, I just want to say thank you for putting dear Violet at ease. Poor girl does get a bit of the jitters when the spotlight's on her.
Yeah. It's the thing is I know, this can be a tense, trying thing. They don't really prepare you, and they actually want you to kind of be off balance for these kinds of shows. We're lucky. I worked on a reality show, a reality cooking show, and what they would do in between breaks is they would put just a table full of bottles of wine out there, try to get everybody as drunk as possible, so that when they did the talking to, they'd get the most the best answers, the most damaging ones. But he'll kind of turn to you, Violet. But you're okay now?
Oh yeah, I'm just camera shy. I talked about this before with my son. He works in Hollywood actually, and he told me about stuff, but that made me even more nervous. I'm sorry.
His ears perk up. Your son works in Hollywood?
Yes. He started out as an actor and now he's a director.
Oh,
Mostly.
really? Really? What has he done?
Well, he has worked on TV mostly, and I will rattle off some of the stuff that he's done.
And you can see him kind of listening, and he's clearly very interested in that. And you seem to have put him at ease if the two of you want to follow up with him here.
Yeah. We were wondering about what had happened to poor Mr. Riviera. He was not a very pleasant person. Do you know?
I mean, did he? I have to say, I found him most disagreeable, even in our brief interaction. Now, I mean, you must have all kinds of stories from your time here on the show.
Well.
Oh, come on now, Buck. I don't have to get you a table full of wine to.
No.
It's just.
I let's have you roll meddling.
Yeah. Do you want to roll, or should I roll, Sabine?
I think you can roll.
Okay.
What we'll do with the paired scenes is we'll have the person who didn't roll kind of lead on the next paired scene.
Cool. I will. I think that's a presence one, isn't it? Really, it's buttering him up, which is a 0.
Let's
I
see.
roll violet dice instead of mine, but I will take the 6. But I think I want to put on a crown to improve.
Okay,
that.
Which crown do you want to put on?
So if I understand. You know what? I want to put on the Crown of the Void, I guess, because I just want to have narrate how dark entities subtly reveal themselves in my cozy mysteries. Seems like a thing I just want to have. Basically.
Absolutely. I think there is probably a moment when you hear the wind and the squawking of the gulls, and it reminds you of that dream again. So you'll push that up to a 7 to 9 because it goes up 1 result.
Yep.
I think I'm going to give you another condition as the complication for this, and I think that is let's say jumpy, like you're starting to hear things and they're making you a little more rattled.
I could really do with a glass of that wine now.
He says, well, I'll tell you something. Then this happened this morning before the show even started filming. There was a cake left out on one of the tables. Clearly somebody put it there, hadn't been sitting there all night, but it was clearly put on the judge's space. And it had in just blood red frosting written on this white sheet cake, you're dead.
Ooh. Oh my.
And Heath had us clear that away before anybody saw it. So, I mean, he wanted to make sure that it didn't interrupt anything. So we cleared the frosting off of it and had that for breakfast.
But you feel good. You feel fine, right?
And you see him pause, like he's beginning to understand the implications. Yeah, maybe I think so. I think I'm okay. That kind of does this thing where he puts his hand. Yeah, I'm still feeling okay.
Was it a good pie? Was it a good cake?
It was a sheet cake. It was fine. It was homemade.
Well, clearly it wasn't Jane then, because that would have been a cake to blow your mind.
Fair enough. And that's your second clue, is the sheet cake.
Mhm.
Let's take our break here. And when we come back, we'll switch back to Ruby and Bobby, and then Rosemary and Violet, and then we'll kind of move onwards, okay?
Mhm.
So take 7.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I got off before I heard how long we are taking our break. Sorry.
7 minutes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Didn't think I'd have to put Boris Johnson behind a line, Lowell. Like, I thought I could escape that.
I hope that was okay.
Yeah, it's fine. If we have a mystery where he's dead, let's just push him into the bay and forget about it.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a while since I've saw Brexit in the lines section of Character Keeper, but yeah.
Yeah, we got a whole set of delightful. I just want somebody to just put 2020 as a line on lines and veils.
And Brexit wasn't 2020 though; it was
that's
earlier.
true. That is Anyway, let's come back. Let's come back to Bobby and Ruby. Bobby, we didn't see you paired up with Ruby last time, right? So, what do you think of Ruby?
I really have come to appreciate Ruby. I think there was maybe a bit of not tension between us, but sort of just not really clicking, I guess. When I first moved to Brindlewood Bay, I had assumed that most of the people around here would be retirees from elsewhere. So it was interesting to me to meet someone who had spent so much time, maybe even grown up in a small seaside town, oceanside town. I thought her hobbies were weird. I thought it was weird that she was a homemaker. All those things just sort of rubbed me the wrong way. But I've really just come to appreciate her outlook on life.
And Ruby, what's the little habit or thing that Bobby does that maybe bothers you?
Well, I guess because what she does, she's just so detail oriented, and life's just a big flow. It's a river that you're in. I can't do that. I mean, I go see the birds wherever they are. I'm not go out and look for a specific bird. That takes the magic away.
Excellent. So, Bobby, Ruby, you finished up talking with Sue. It's a little bit later in the afternoon. Again, got the tent. We've got the people moving around. We've got some tables people are seated at. We've got the trailers. We've got probably there's a production office there as well. So what do you two want to do?
Well, I mean, I guess we could talk to Jane. We got the strong suggestion to talk to Jane. And did you see that glance to Mr. Lamb?
I'm wondering if we should go talk to Scott and maybe butter him up, so to speak, by saying what a big fan we are of his and how impressed we were with his baking, and maybe that'll get him talking.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Let's do that.
So you two will go over. Lamb is seated at one of these picnic tables with benches that has been set off to the side. He's, texting on his phone and seated there, got that sharp little bow tie on, broad-shouldered. He is a good-looking man. Good features. All the shaving there is done incredibly strategically. Like he takes care of his personal grooming, and he will look up at you two approaching, and he says, "Ladies."
Well, hello, Mr. Lamb. Your pie today was just another level.
Worked very hard on that pie, developing that recipe. Rhubarb's an underused ingredient, and it's nice to have something that has that mix of tart and sweet to it. So I appreciate that. Your pies were good.
Well, I threw it together at the last minute. It was the best I could do.
You sure it's the best you could do?
Well, I could probably not burn it, but I mean, it came out the way it came out. That just
Well,
means that it was supposed to come out that way.
yeah, it really is important to blind bake your pie crust so you don't have that soggy bottom. Um, believe you me, Paul likes a crisp, uncomplicated bottom, or did, I guess.
Oh, you've cooked for him before?
Oh, you did. Maybe they didn't show that season over here in the States. I know that there were some issues with it. I was actually on the show a few years ago.
Oh, so you know, Paul. It's tragedy.
Mm, tragedy's a word that you could use to describe an incident. See, this is actually a little bit of stunt casting that they brought me on. How do I put this best? I had a little blow up with Paul on the show when I was on 3 years ago. Very, very heated argument that got a little physical over some overdone muffins. They were not overdone, but that was, yeah. Yeah, I got eliminated that week, and I was very, very vocal about my displeasure. But when I got a call from Heath to come back and appear, and there was a certain chance to avenge myself. I mean, for the baking, avenge myself for the baking. And there was a certain gratuity that was in the mix, and I couldn't say no to that.
Sure. Did you speak to Paul before today? Did you I don't know, apologize or make up?
Apologize? Why would I apologize to him? He was wrong.
Well, he is a very, very opinionated person.
That is a very kind way to put that, ma'am.
Yeah, he does seem to confuse opinion for fact, I've noticed on the show. I'm sorry that you had such a runabout with him. Goodness.
It was nothing, and certainly nothing that would make me want to kill him.
Well, I would hope not. Of course not. You wouldn't. You're a creator. You bake.
Ruby's been kind of playing a little. So he kind of looks at you, Bobby, as if maybe he'll get a little bit of an escape from this push if he turns to you.
How did you? She's like, no. How did you? You don't seem all that upset that Paul is dead.
Well, I don't believe in being dishonest with one's emotional displays, and I'm upset that this might, make it more difficult to finish out the show. I'll admit that, but he was rude.
Was he rude on the show, or was he rude at another time with you?
Turns back to Ruby. Kind of trying to evade that. Ruby, do you want to try and meddle here to see what you can get out of him?
I think I do. I think I want to find out more about exactly how physical this fight was, how angry he is. Because he does seem to be still a bit angry.
Sure.
And
what do you want to roll that meddling with?
Meddling with, I think, sensitivity, which I'm a -1 on, but I think that's what I'm using here. I think I'm trying to, seem receptive, very
so
supportive.
Sensitivity is the magic stat.
Oh, okay. Then I'm misreading it. Then it would be presence.
Okay.
Yeah. Presence, composure. Maybe composure, because I'm trying to be so supportive.
Sure.
So let's go to and re-roll selected. I got an 8. I got a +1, so 9.
9. So you see, he kind of has been fiddling, and he kind of like, he's like, I have to step away, ladies. And he kind of stands up and walks away. But he's left his phone there, Ruby.
Oh, well, if it's unlocked, I take the time to check his call or his text history.
And you can see that what he was doing as he was sitting there is he was very carefully going through and deleting a set of text messages. They are risque, to say the least.
Oh, goodness.
And they look like they're over the last couple of days. And it's clearly between him and Paul Riviera.
Well, I show these to Bobby and ask her if she knows how we can preserve them. He's clearly deleting these.
Hey!
Oh, you
And
left your phone? I was just bringing it.
Scott comes back over, stomping, and he snatches the phone out of your hands.
We were just coming to return that to you, Scott. There's no need to be rude.
Looks at the two of you and storms away. Ruby, I think you probably are a little guilty getting caught out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem like a fair condition to throw at you?
Yep.
Also, sorry for shouting to players. I apologize. I do that
I
sometimes.
volume down enough that it didn't matter.
Okay.
So.
But yeah, he storms off. You're not sure if he knows that you saw the text messages, but clearly he was panicked.
Very angry young man.
Let's cut back to Rosemary and Violet to get on towards the close of the day here before they let you go.
Should we go speak to Jane Leaf, perhaps? Or
I'm thinking about using the Golden Crown move here because we can and we should. Once per session, right? If nobody minds.
thumbs up from me.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. And yeah, you get to take a 12 plus on a relevant roll or state a fact. So
Okay.
then Violet, you've suggested let's have you do the gold crown, and then we'll move to Rosemary and push on that side of things. Do you want to describe this mystery?
Yeah, sure. And I will say, listen, Rosemary, you know that reminds me of the Amanda Delacourt and the pigeon pie mystery, where they found this pigeon, this tame pigeon baked into a pie, and afterwards, then the owner of the pigeon was murdered. So we had the sheet cake here, and now basically this person has been murdered. And you know, I wonder, because in this mystery it was actually quite important, the way the victim was bound up was actually very important. And I wonder if we should try and go and look at this rope, because the way it was tied, that kind of reminded me of something I'd seen before.
Sure. I mean, not one of my favorite of the Delacour mysteries, but of course.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy with this pigeon. The description of it struggling while it's baked into the pie, that was A bit gross, right?
I think when you say pigeon or seagull, cause, and Rosemary jumps. Yeah.
So Violet, is there a particular role you'd like to have that apply 12 plus to, or do you want to give us a declaration?
I want to give you a declaration. I want to give you the declaration that the pattern of the snarl and cord is very important, and that I've seen it somewhere incorporated on one of the judges' clothing things.
Interesting. Yeah, that is a fairly distinctive pattern there. You can add this in as a clue on the sheet. I think you would definitely have seen it tied on the apron tie of Jane Leaf.
Yeah, I will. I think we should go and talk to Jane Leaf.
Oh, well, indeed. Let's go speak to Jane and see if we can get another look at that apron of hers.
Yes.
So you two will head over. Jane is in her trailer, and you'll knock and you'll come in.
Miss Leaf.
Oh, it's Rosemary. And Violet. Please come in.
Thank you, ma'am. I was just wondering if you're quite all right. A dear friend of yours. I know her, Mr. Riviera, was a dear friend of yours.
Yes. Now, let me ask you as you two come in here. Will, what's something in this trailer that says how posh Jane Leaf is?
She has a full-on China tea set.
Oh, yeah, full tea. And Sabine, what's another detail that says very English posh?
I'm afraid it's a lot of doilies.
Doilies everywhere, hand done, hand stitched, no paper.
Yes.
It's all the beautiful sheet.
Yes.
Oh, come and sit down, you two. I hope this morning wasn't too trying for you.
Oh, very little shocks, the women of Brindlewood Bay.
We have a hearty constitution here. Well, you are from New England stout fisher folk.
Why, yes, even those of us who are transplants, as it were. Now, might I say, Miss Leaf, I hope you don't mind the indulgence, and Rosemary will reach into her bag and pull out a first edition of one of Jane Leaf's cookbooks.
Oh, I haven't seen one of these in years. I can see that it has been used quite frequently. That always gives me pleasure when I see a cookbook of mine that has that shop-worn, food-splattered look to it. Would you like me to sign it?
Oh, if that would be such a delight. Please, Miss Leaf.
Is there anything I should say on the dedication?
If you could say to Rosemary and Arthur.
Is Arthur your husband then?
He was my late husband, but...
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. That is...
He was a man of words himself, so I like to put his name in as many of my first editions as I collect as possible.
Oh, well, that is a lovely sentiment.
I'm cheekily trying to maybe like trigger my cozy move, if I can do that.
Ooh, I actually like that. Yeah.
Sorry to double stuff the scenes.
No, actually, I think that's good. So is this your cozy activity?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. We'll have a little scene where you drink tea and talking about the book and so on. So you can pick two, and Violet may pick one from the cozy move list.
I will clear one of my conditions. Shaken, I think I'll get rid of that one. And I'd like to stumble on a clue relevant to the active mystery.
All right. And Violet, what do you want? You can pick one from that list.
Okay. I feel like the cozy move's directed towards Jane more than towards Violet because
But you're sharing the intimate moment with
Yeah.
me while it's only while one of you is engaged in a cozy activity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if nothing fits, you can pass on taking the benefit from it. But I just want to see if there's anything you want to use of those first three options.
Mm, I think, yeah, I would like to ask Rosemary a question that she must answer. Maybe while Jane is getting some tea somewhere or something. And I will look at her and I will say that I've seen you recently, Rosemary, staring at the sea like you were waiting for something. Are you all right?
I've not been sleeping well, I confess, Violet. I've been having the most peculiar dreams.
Oh, wow. You talked to anybody about it?
I'm talking to you, Anna.
Oh, yes.
And they'll pass, I'm sure. But I can't help but feel that deep down, the waters hide something.
That does sound ominous.
Yeah.
Can I be ultra cheeky? Can I say, is that perhaps me acquiring another, what is it called, a cozy item or something?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm digging that. Yeah. What is the item? Is it the cookbook?
Yeah, Jane Leaf's, what would it be? European delicacies.
Okay. And here's let's roll to the clue part of this. I think as you're sitting there, as there's a point at which Jane gets up to go back into the little kitchenette and put the kettle on again. She does that thing where she puts a little bit of water in the pot and, and then starts the kettle and so on. And as that's happening, you look over and you see that she's got several of the cookbooks on a shelf nearby where you're seated. And you see that the most recent one that she co-wrote with Paul Riviera is there. And you kind of take that down off the shelf and leaf through it. And you will notice that 3 or 4 pages have been cut out of the book. And when you go to look at the index to compare, you'll realize that they're all pages with Paul's recipes on them. Not all of Paul's recipes are missing, but about 4 of them.
And were they for pie, like the one that was sent to him? Or was that something different?
Yeah, there is probably a sheet cake. Paul's sheet cake recipe is one of them, but the others are like a pot pie, and for a creme. Gosh, I'm losing the word for it. But some sort of custard that gets salted and hit with a blowtorch kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's very strange. And you may note that on the clues list. What do you do? Do you conceal that, or do you keep that out when she comes back? Thank you, Ruby.
I keep that out, I think.
And she comes back with the tea, and she kind of looks down, and she's like, "Oh, that's yes, that's our most recent collaboration. Though I fear it's the last."
Oh my! I haven't yet had the opportunity to buy this. Has this hit the shelves yet?
It's been out for a few months. Some of the advanced galleys are more what's in circulation. There was an issue with some of the printing. Hopefully, we will get that all settled and have it out here in the States.
Violet, do you want to? Because I made the investigation move last time. I'm wondering, do you want to do it for this?
Yeah, I would like to ask her about not book because that's there. I would like to ask her about the pattern on her apron, because that's why we got here, right?
The knot that I tie? That's
Yes.
a very old, classic British fancy butcher's tie.
Oh, interesting. When we moved here, my husband and I, Barney, we had a sailboat and he got into knot tying for some reason for a bit, but I've never heard of one of these.
Let's have you make that meddling move then.
Yeah. Okay, I'm doing that with presents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's usually. So I've got a 6.
Got a 6.
And I think at that point, I will also put on the Shadow in the Garden, Crown of the Void, because I'm still a bit rattled about what Ruby said about the whatever is hidden within the sea and waiting for us, and looking at a butcher's tie and remembering my time on that boat that wasn't exactly so extremely lovely, and Barney did drown in the waves, so I'm kind of remembering that.
And she's kind of looking at you as you're talking, and then her eyes kind of dart over to the book, and she actually reaches over and takes that collaboration cookbook away from you, Rosemary, and flips through it, and she's like, yes. She notes the missing pages. She says, there was an issue with the book here. That's why some of these pages are missing there. She kind of looks at you, Violet. She says, usually we're very careful with the production of the cookbooks, but Paul demanded he would be allowed to put his recipes in without us supervising them or checking them.
That's not what a collaboration is about.
Well, normally we do work separately. The problem is that it turns out some of the recipes that he had put in here, everyone borrows from other people. That's how this works. We stand on the shoulders of giants, I believe that Newton said. But we don't directly lift from other people's cookbooks, even obscure ones. And unfortunately, some of Paul's recipes were taken from other sources. And that's why we had to pull the book back from printing. And it's been yet another one of Paul's outrageous contractual demands. And she looks very angry.
A weak editor will lead to a bad end to any book.
Well, and she'll say, I should probably get tidied up. I will, and you two should probably get ready and prepared for tomorrow.
Thank you, Miss Leaf.
Thank you.
And
good night.
Good night. She will send you on your way. And you can put that as a clue as outrageous contractual demands. Maybe we should do a scene of the four of you getting together in the evening. And then if we want to do some cozy moves or things, or want to do night moves or things, we can go to that. Does that seem fair? Is this do you think this is at someone's house, or are you at the coffee shop in the evening? What would you prefer? Anyone have a strong feeling? I'll throw that out. I know we were at, whose house were we at last time at the end scene? So we were at Bobby's house. That's right. So we should, if we're going to be at somebody's house, we'll be at someone else's house to showcase that.
Why don't we be at Rose's house?
Yeah. So
On
Rosemary,
the finely polished furniture.
tell us about your house. What do we see?
It's your classic, with the long wooden porch, detached. I think like in town, so it's not got like lots of land or anything. It has a little yard and things like that, but it's quite close to other buildings and stuff, just down a little residential street. An old, old for this kind of place, basically.
Absolutely. Bobby, what's a thing you see in Rosemary's house that tells you about what she cares about?
I think she's got several books around, sort of very tastefully placed on some really nice pieces of furniture, kind of in the main sitting room. I think we also see some sort of spots on the wall where there once hung framed prints of her husband's book covers, but she's since moved those out of the way.
Nice.
Either because she didn't like them or because she just doesn't want the memories of it. Not clear.
Nice. And let me think here. Ruby, what's a thing you see in Rosemary's house that tells you that she is a transplant, that she is from out of town originally?
That was an accident. I was trying to hit the A. On her refrigerator, she actually has all these Brindlewood Bay postcards from when maybe she visited the town looking for a place to move to. We would never buy postcards for our hometown. Why?
Right.
Why?
I like that. And Violet, last thing, you gave Rosemary a gift at some point. What was it, and where do you see it? Is it in a place of honor, or is it tucked away? What do you think?
Well, I think what I gave her is a first edition of one of the rarer books about the Brindlewood Bay, actually, the history of Brindlewood Bay, that I have painstakingly restored to its former glory.
Nice.
I don't know I would leave that for Will to answer, if it's in a place of glory or if it's just tucked away somewhere.
I think it is on the coffee table.
Oh,
Nice.
Cool.
It's right out there. I think it's been looks like it's well thumbed through as well.
Nice. So you've had a meal, had your coffee. We're here then, the four of you sitting around after that. And when we come into the scene, Bobby, what are you saying? We assume that information has generally been shared, and now you're at that point of, okay, what's the next step?
I say it's clear that Paul was liked neither on screen nor off screen. He is making a lot of enemies. It's clear from the conversation that Ruby and I had with Scott Lamb that there was clearly something going on between them. There was clearly a liaison between them, but a lot of bitterness and anger as well.
I wonder how he died, though. What really killed him? I mean, we haven't found that out yet, right?
Well, hopefully the dear sheriff will have at least done the bare minimum.
I mean, we could ask the coroner. It would maybe be more helpful than asking the sheriff.
You're probably right. Now, Mr. Riviera is certainly weaving a tangled web through his fellow cast members. I wonder where Mr. Boosh fits into all of this. And dear Jane, strong a woman as she is, I do not think that she could have tied Mr. Riviera, even as good as she is with that knot.
Maybe not alone. But if there was enough bitterness, it doesn't have to be one person.
And he did anger Sue quite a great deal. I mean, usually a political debate or discussion among colleagues and friends doesn't. It sounded like it got quite vociferous. Maybe he said something that. Just not sure.
I wonder if we can get our hands on a copy of the book without those pages missing and maybe work out exactly who those recipes were stolen from.
Hmm.
And we still haven't talked to Paul's. It was Paul's wife, right? Donna? Surely.
Yes.
Oh,
Tinkle, tinkle.
Miss Riviera. Yeah, I thought that was Mr. Buck's partner until I realized it was dear Donna. They do seem mighty close.
They do seem close, and it seems very strange that she is here and is so uncomfortable being here.
Well, perhaps one of us should pay our respects in the morning. Although I do think that we all have some preparation to do. We got a pastry off in the morning.
Forgot about that. Oh.
Pastries
Yeah.
at noon. High noon at pastry.
Yes, let's do Western pastries. Whatever that means. Put some spurs on it, I guess. I wonder how I got onto this show. I did not want to do this.
Violet, you're doing great.
I'm not. And I'm hating it.
Well, you won't have Mr. Rude Face complaining tomorrow.
Yes, well, but I didn't kill him. I will say that again.
Well, no one here suspects that either of us are killers.
Mm.
We're solvers of these things.
Yes.
And Violet, tomorrow, if you ever get nervous, just give one of us a glance. We will give you all the emotional support that we can.
Thanks, Bobby. That's nice of you to say.
Can I share with you? Can I share with you, ladies, something?
Of course.
By all means, do dish.
This morning when I woke up, there was a knock on my door. And I went to see it.
And
You'll think I'm crazy. My dearly departed husband's fishing lures were hanging from my screen in the shape of a mermaid.
What?
No one was there. Jonathan has those lures. He should.
Jonathan Sr. or Junior?
Junior, of course. Jonathan Sr.
Yeah.
is past of Jonathan.
Yes.
I mean, really, if we must be accurate, it's Jonathan the Fourth has them. Jonathan the Third is past. Jonathan the Second is past. I tried to change the naming, but Jonathan was quite persuasive.
A fine tradition, I'm sure. But your little Johnny wouldn't play such a game upon his parent, would he?
He's still in Boston. I think I said Chicago earlier, but he's still in Boston.
Did you call him and ask him about them?
Well, I didn't want to. He would think I'm getting. He thinks he needs to take care of me. Last thing I need him to think is that I'm seeing things.
Yeah, you're right.
Shape of a mermaid, though. It's weird.
Who would do such a thing?
Hmm.
Maybe that Amanda Krause is trying to get into our heads.
I would
Not
not.
fine.
Oh,
I did hear she's doing Meals on Wheels. Did you know that?
No, I would have thought that The only wheels she'd be interested in would be the stretch kind, and the only meals would be at a 5-star restaurant.
Sounds about right. Her generosity is not well known anywhere.
Speaking of which, have any of you checked in on ATN since his heart attack?
I fear I haven't.
How remiss of us.
Maybe on my way home, I'll wander down and just check in on him and see how he's faring.
Oh, did you bring any of your pie?
My apple pie?
Yeah, nothing says, sorry you had a coronary like a piece of pie.
Well, to be honest with you, Rosemary, I did get it at the 7-Eleven outside of town. So maybe I'll pick one up on my way.
Let's cut then and see if there's anything people want to do night move wise or meddling wise before we cut to the next stage here. Bobby, you want to head over and talk to Etienne?
I think I will peek in on him and then
Okay.
maybe also eventually head over to Dr. Jones' house and see if she was the one who's did the postmortem on Paul.
Which one do you want to resolve?
I don't know. I'm legit worried about ATN, so I think I'm going to go him.
And you'll knock. There is like he's got a nurse who's like doing evening check-in on him when you arrive, and he's grumbling and such, and he sees you, and he looks a little paler, clearly lost a little bit of weight in the time, and he's like, it's good to see you, Bobby. How are you doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing fine. I've come to check on you. The ladies and I have been very worried about him.
Oh, I don't think you need to worry too much about me. I'm a fighter.
I know you are. By the way, have you heard about anything unusual in town? We're investigating a new set of mysterious occurrences.
I think this is definitely a meddling move.
I think I'm going to use presence, which is not my best. Yikes. I rolled a 5.
You rolled a 5. Do you want to stick with that?
Let me do gold crown, or crown of the queen, I guess. Sorry.
Okay.
I will do fondest memory of my late partner. And this baking stuff is on my mind. And we've got pastries coming up. And every year for one of the holidays, it was my husband, Robert, who would bake arugula and so his is the recipe that I'm going to use. And he tried to teach it to me many times, and I never was quite getting it. But I'm hopeful that I can sort of bring all of the love and devotion he had to his family when I bake it this time.
Nice. And you will, Etienne will say, so I know you and your fellow mavens investigate things a little bit off.
You know we do that, Etienne.
Yeah. So, the fine young doctor, Dr. Jones, Nicole, came by not too long before you did to check in on me. And she happened to tell me something about this thing at the bake-off.
Oh, yeah, the one of the hosts. I'm sure you've watched the show, or at least have heard of the cantankerous host, Paul.
Exactly. He kind of leans forward, kind of, in his bed, kind of still, he says, so don't spread this around, but Nicole did the preliminary post-mortem, and she says it looks like Paul was poisoned.
She didn't say anything about suffocation.
No. She said it was meant to look a little bit that way, but it was definitely had signs of poisoning.
Thank you. What did she seem nervous or anxious at all?
And he goes, no, not. And you see him kind of looks past you for a second, and then you see him go, oh God. And he clutches at his chest, and you can see him start to get a little shaky, kind of falls back into the chair, and it looks to you like he's having a heart attack. Saw something outside the window, startled him, and now he's having this heart attack.
Is the nurse still around?
No, she's left.
I pick up his phone and I dial 911.
All right. Let's have you roll the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen? And then we'll come to back to the other PCs to get some stuff.
I'm afraid Etienne's going to die.
Then what are you rolling with to help keep this bad thing from happening?
Composure.
Okay.
I rolled a 6 plus 1 is 7.
A 7. So you will call the hospital, and you're trying to stabilize him, and you will, get him stabilized, but you can see that this last heart attack has taken something out of him. You're kind of sweating. I'm going to give you the condition exhausted. And he looks beaten up. And when you kind of ask him what happened, he can't quite speak yet. Let's cut to Violet. Is there anything you want to do night move wise or in the morning before the contest?
Yeah, I originally thought I'd go to see the doctor, but I think Violet's still a bit restless after the whole ominous. There is something beneath the sea stuff, and so she's restless. She will return to the scene of the crime and just basically snoop around at the place where it happened, or maybe didn't happen, just to see if she can find something, or if she can overhear someone. Maybe somebody's already there. Just just so she doesn't have to go home yet. It's I think she will have to call her son, but she's putting that off as well because she didn't do so well with the cameras, which is weird because the son is an actor and she should be better. Yeah.
Do you think the obstacle here is more kind of figuring out clues, or is it about sneaking around after dark?
I think the obstacle is more sneaking around after dark. I mean, I'm a little old lady. I'm not that physically. I'm not a ninja or anything.
Sure. Then let's have you roll the night move.
Okay. So what I'm afraid will happen is that somebody will catch up to me snooping and maybe think that I'm trying to cheat at the competition or something.
Absolutely. What do you want to roll this with?
I think I'm rolling this with vitality because it's a bit physical, like sneaking around in the dark. Yeah, I've rolled a 5. That's not great.
Are you happy with the 5?
No, I'm not. I will, in this case, I will, where are the Oh yeah, I think I will share. I will flash back to a fond memory with one of my children, because that seems. And the fond memory is that that was back home, which was, I think it was not Brindlewood Bay, but it was equally a small town on the coast of New England, so it looks Brindlewood Bay-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that it's his first play, and he is awfully nervous, and they're not supposed to have parents back there, right? Because that's kind of a rule, and he was 15, I think, at that point. But you can see that Violet was sneaking about and trying to just bring him some, weirdly enough, walnut pie, so he would take heart and yeah, and she got kind of stuck there because she wasn't supposed to be there. And then there was this director, he was shouting the whole time. And so she saw the play from behind the scenes, and she watched her son, and he was really good, and she was very proud. And then afterwards she turned up, and he was extremely happy about how that whole thing had gone. And thinking about that, she knows that she sometimes has to wait for other people to go somewhere.
You will hear the noise of talking and so on. You'll move over, and you kind of find yourself by that production trailer that they've got set up, and you kind of look through the window, and you see that Heath, the director, is editing the section with you. And I think the complication that you're going to get here is that you are going to get camera shy as an additional complication when you see yourself on camera, when you see that video. Does that seem fair?
Oh, that seems very fair.
Let me do this. Let me check in with Rosemary and Ruby, and then I'm going to come back and have you roll your meddling move, just to kind of sweep around. Does that seem okay? Rosemary, is there anything you want to do that evening or early morning?
No, I'm just getting ready for the pastries. All of my leads, I think, are in show after
In
show.
show, okay.
Yeah.
So you're preparing on that. What about you, Ruby?
Well, I know our deputies are not the the best, so I am going to try to gain access to Paul's room at the Blue Heron.
Well, that is definitely a night move. Head over to there, and it's late. Some of the other cast are staying here. Kind of move your way in. What do you want to roll with that to do that? And what are you afraid is going to happen? What's the worst?
I'm afraid that I'll have the guilty condition. So I'm afraid that someone will think that I am going to try to destroy evidence.
Absolutely.
And will actually report me.
And that the cops are definitely keeping an eye on this place. So if that happens, it's going to be very bad for you.
Yeah.
You're also guilty. So could you please roll this with disadvantage?
Yep. And I need to add a die. Let's make it a different color. All right, I've got my 3 dice. So it is a 5. I'm definitely a 5. Brutal. I don't love having a 5.
You have some options, or you can go with the 5.
I am going to the Crown of the Queen adds, right? That adds to it.
You can mark that and then gain, you know, a +1 sort of result level.
Yeah, so let's do that. And how you satisfy your physical desires.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I like younger women. And so we're in Maine, so the beach towns are relatively close for folks who haven't been or don't know. So I go down to Kennebunk, where there is some gay clubs, and I pick up younger women, usually in their early 20s is my preferred, but you know, I'm flexible. Anything up to maybe 40.
Striking,
And,
the most salacious detail we've seen on screen yet.
Yeah, and I go to their place, and we have quite an evening, and I'm going to veil that because I don't.
Yeah.
I always have a veil on sex.
Then you will succeed. I will give you the complication when I return with the meddling move, but let's hold on that for just 1 second while I go back to have Violet roll her meddling move. You're muted.
Okay, I know. I was just confused about my windows. So
Sure.
on my meddling move, because I'm listening into this talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I think I will use reason because I'm reasonably cautious, or maybe composure. I think reason. Yeah, it's a 4. Okay, I will not crown myself, or do I want to? Burgeoning romance, huh? I don't know. I think we see. I will narrate a scene in the present day showing a private side of you that very few get to see.
Okay.
And I think what we will see here is like the Violet's face. She's usually diffident and looking down, but at this point her face will harden a bit, and she will take a deep breath because she's still in a pretty precarious position, but she will push herself outwards to go there and to listen, even though she hates the whole thing and the camera editing and something like that. And that side of Violet, you usually don't see her pushing through stuff like that. That she usually takes care that people don't see her doing that.
And I think as you are there and you're listening to this and you realize the camera kind of goes and it goes to, you know, you're overhearing this, you're seeing Heath going through, and you realize that there's some like B-roll footage, the stuff that's sort of done, you know, and the camera's kind of pointed away, but you can hear that the audio is picking something up. And what you hear is the sound of Paul Revere, and he says, "I'm not giving you another red cent. I'm not giving you any more money. You're not getting any money from me, none at all. I don't care what is going on, but you'll get money over my dead body." And then it kind of cuts away. You're not sure who he was talking to, but clearly somebody was demanding financial help from Paul. And I think that's at that moment when you hear the like sound of running feet, and it's dark here, and someone slams into you
Oops.
in the night and knocks you over and keeps running.
I give a little squawk.
What is it that you sprain?
I think it's my wrist.
Yeah. You'll fall on that, hit that, grit your teeth, and I will give you the condition sprained wrist.
Yes, thank you. Ow.
Ruby, let's have you roll. What do you want to roll your meddling with?
I'm going to roll my meddling with I'm going to go with vitality because of the both the scene I narrated, but also
Sure.
I'm basically trying to break into a place.
Absolutely.
Seven. Wait. It did that thing that it always does where it reset. So it's 6.
Got a 6. Are you happy with the 6?
I'm not happy with the 6. Oh boy. Getting
Please.
lots of crowns.
Work your way up. No void clues today, but lots of crowns.
Yeah. I'm going to narrate a private side of you if you get to see.
Okay.
So as I get up in the morning, all the anxieties that I actually don't let people see have kind of kept me from sleeping well, and I really have to talk myself into getting ready for each day. I'm never quite convinced that I'm useful to the group, that my husband loved me. Part of the physical desire has to do with just proving to myself, that somebody likes me or wants me. And so I think we see that she's actually very much doesn't have the self-esteem that she exudes.
But you keep yourself together, and we see you break into Paul's room. The police have clearly been here, kind of looked around, but in that cursory way that tells you that they're not particularly focused. But you'll move around, luggage, beautiful clothing, all the star stuff that he has here. But the thing that will draw your eye when you kind of move over to a desk is in one of the doors, you kind of pull it open, and there is a set of receipts, clearly purchase receipts by Paul, and the expenses are extravagant. You look at it and you're like, oh my God, how much money is he spending? It's crazy. And you can see that he's clearly been working on figuring out how to fudge the numbers for expenses and expense account and things, but he is spending a crazy amount of money from what is, you're guessing, is the show.
All right, so it looks like he's doing some embezzling.
Is that smoke?
Oh, no.
You kind of turn around and you will see there's smoke coming in from outside the door. And it's kind of see a little bit of a reddish light there.
Oh God, I'm gonna rapidly reach for the closest window and open it and jump down to the ground from the second floor.
And what condition do you get from that leap?
So I've actually done this in real life. I'm breaking one of my shins.
And it cracked down.
It's the impact fracture.
And I think we'll cut to you sitting in the back of an ambulance as the fire department is putting out the fire in the Blue Heron, and lots of people standing around. You know, Sheriff Dalrymple has questioned you, but you've kept kind of mum about what you found, I assume.
Yep.
And
this is just a scratch, Sheriff. I'll be fine tomorrow.
Let us cut forward then to tomorrow. And the group goes there, two of you looking much worse for wear. You can tell that Heath Hendricks doesn't care. He wants to get people on their marks. As soon as you show up, he's getting people in place and getting set and getting things rolling. Rosemary, this pastry competition, you actually spent some time last night, whereas the others injured themselves. You actually spent some time preparing for this. What kind of pastry are you making here?
A strudel.
A strudel, what kind of filling in the strudel?
It is strawberry strudel.
Oh, interesting. Fresh strawberries, getting that all set. All right. And Bobby, the other one of our uninjured contestants, what kind of strudel are you making?
Not making strudel, making
Strudel, pastry. Sorry, pastry.
Chocolate rugula.
Ooh. Tell me what's distinct about the chocolate.
Oh, great question. It is Ghirardelli from San Francisco.
Excellent.
Bought it online specifically for this.
Yeah, there's a lot of battle between the Ghirardelli and the Godiva factions over what's the best chocolate. That's a long-standing thing. And of course, the Brits here kind of roll their eyes when they see American chocolate, as well they should. Violet, what kind of pastry are you making with your sprained wrist?
I think I'm sticking to what I had planned to make the night before, and I'm making a honey waffles, like the harder waffles that they have in the Netherlands.
Yeah. There's a fancy word for it. Oh yeah, you get the waffle iron. You're kind of making up the batter, honey. Okay, that sounds good. And Ruby, what about you with that shin?
Well, I plan to make I think I'd plan to make an apple turnover, but that's got a lot of folding of dough. I've got the apples. I've got the materials for the dough. So I'm just going to make an apple donut at this point. Simplify it, make it so I don't have to move around so much. I've got a cushion cast on my ankle to make walking, or at least standing here, painful.
Yeah, they're trying not to. They're trying to make sure they shoot that so they can show your suffering, and add to the drama of this. There is a bit when Jane Leaf comes over and she's like, "That's not really a pastry."
Well, here in New England, we definitely think of donuts as pastries. You go to a pastry shop and you can get a bear claw, you can get donuts. I mean, I don't know in England what you think of. But you're in New England now.
She will definitely like she gets Heath over, and she's clearly being a little persnickety, and Heath is like, let's just go with it. Let's just get rolling. I want to keep going. Okay. You see that Scott is making something with beautiful layers, chilling the dough, putting the butter in, doing the book ending to get it set, making his own, stuff, putting it in the fridge, chilling it very carefully. And you see that Melanie Blair is panicking because she was going to do a donut, and now she's heard that donuts aren't in, and Ruby's doing a donut, so you can see that she's now freaking out and trying to figure out something else to do as a pastry on the fly. Rosemary, is your pastry a triumph or a tad disappointing?
It's another triumph, do you know?
And you bring it over there. Jane, you're one of the first people to go up. Jane eats it, and these strawberries. Did you get them yourself, or did you buy them at farmer's market, or?
They're just Trader Joe's strawberries. It's all about the vanilla that you put in there.
Really, you've managed to catch the balance of the flavors here. This is exquisite. Oh, a triumph.
Well, I learned from the best, Jing.
She laughs. Bobby, what about you? Is your presentation a triumph or a bit disappointing?
I think these turned out really, really well, and she's really proud of them. She doesn't know if they'll stand up to the others, but they are really flaky and really nice, and the chocolate flavor is really complex. And she was definitely preoccupied with ATM and so she was a little bit on autopilot, and that balanced to her advantage.
And Jane kind of says, "These are very, very professionally done. I would not be surprised to find this in a shop. It's quite good, quite good. Very nice. I would consider this a success."
Thank you. Have you ever had rubella before?
No, I think when I was in Provence one year, as I recall, there was a pastry shop there that made some of the more unusual sounds. Yes.
Excellent.
Violet, triumph or disaster?
Well, Violet's nervous, like even more like than yesterday. She's also, her hand hurts. She hasn't slept a lot, but she's made these waffles for dozens of years. So I guess they're adequate. They're not a triumph, but it's not total disaster either.
She'll bite it and she goes, "This is quite good for what they are. I know you can do better, and maybe step a little bit outside your comfort zone, and it could be could be. I really hope that you can push yourself a little bit more." Can we get some kind of reaction? Violet, just say something.
I'm quite outside my comfort zone here.
Good, that'll work. All right, cut. And Ruby?
So the donuts are they're moist. They're very tasty, but when you make apple donuts, of course, you need to use apple cider. And I just grabbed the one I had in my fridge. And as soon as I opened it, it made that pop that they do when you've left them in the fridge too long and they've started to form alcohol. And so they're very boozy because really the cider doesn't get cooked off at all. And so that makes them off, very much so.
Well, I'm not one to look askance at a little bit of a tipple in the baking. This is just a little bit too much. Maybe just not quite right.
I think you find if you keep eating them, you won't mind at all.
Yes, but I'm also afraid that I will become ill. Would you call this a classic American pastry?
I would not call this a classic version of an American pastry, but you know, I could do better. But I mean, I did break my leg.
Well, Well, we'll take that into consideration, and we hope that you can do better.
Well, thank you.
And they will cut after that. They go to the judging. I think that we'll see Scott Lamb will win on that one. His thing is exquisite,
Sure.
though. They do mention Bobby and Rosemary's as close contenders on that. And Scott has this look of like yes on his face when that happens. So we have a couple ways we can do this now, because we're getting close to the quarter till. We could do another round of like checking in and investigating, or we could stop here, put a pin in this, and sort of and start next time post contest. What do you think? What's the preference for the group on that?
I mean, my preference is post contest, because then we're fresh on a round of clue gathering.
Okay.
We won't feel like we're rushing it.
Okay, well let's do it that way. We'll make sure. Is everyone okay with putting the video up? Okay, good. We'll do that. And we'll kind of start that. And the game has that mysteries can overlap, but I think we can probably get this one some more clues, and then perhaps move to the theorizing there pretty early next time. But I'll make sure that we have.
What did you say this was again?
Pardon?
What difficulty was this mystery again?
7.
So we're even, anyways, aren't we? I think.
Let's see. Even. Yeah, you're definitely 1, 2, 3. You actually had a +2. I mean,
Yeah.
we could move to a theorize if people wanted to do that.
I kind of feel like we might have numerically enough clues. I think that one more round of interactions is enough for the fiction to breathe, so that we're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's hold off. We'll do the once around at the start next time, and then we can kind of shift into theorizing. Does that sound cool?
That sounds really good.
Okay. And we'll definitely put this up, and we'll go through. So so you can watch the last few minutes. We've kind of left off here at this point. We've got the injuries last time. We've got some people running around. We've got 9 clues on the table. No void clues today. Kind of wild. So the end of session is us going to check the XP here, and we're going to walk through those questions. So Will didn't solve a mystery. What about your other 2 questions?
I don't think I really shared my wisdom with a young person, but I think that perhaps I did show people that I've still got it, because I'm acing this cookery thing, and I'm giving so much sass to the brusque male host who's now a murder victim.
Yes, absolutely. I think 100% you'll get an XP for that. And then Bobby, what about you?
Yeah, I don't feel like I don't think I took the opportunity to share my wisdom, young person. I might argue that I behaved like a woman half my age when I visited ATN at night, and then sort of acted quickly to call 911. But
I think 100% get an XP for that. And then Violet, what about you?
Well, did I secretly undermine the authority of a local official? I mean, I think I did that in the starting scene.
Yeah, definitely.
And did I share the memory of a late family member? I mean, I told somebody that my husband was quite into knots, my late and not very much lamented husband.
I think that's 2 XP then.
Cool. So I've got 5 then. That means that I can take an advancement, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll think about that.
Ruby, I think you definitely behaved like a woman half your age when you jumped out a window.
Yeah. And then did you show that you've still got it? I I don't think I did in the fiction. I did in a narration scene, but I don't think I did in the
Yeah,
fiction.
no, I think that's
of the
good. We saw
show.
it on screen.
Okay.
So I think that's fair. I think both those two will count.
Okay.
And one of the things we'll definitely want to try next time is you've got those cozy items.
Oh, that's right.
A great way to mark those and use those to get advantage on a roll. It can be used to cancel disadvantage. It can be used to give yourself advantage. We definitely want to make sure that you engage in that to give yourself those resources. But I will say we got a lot of crowns on the table and some darkness hinting in at the edges. Let's just do a quick round. Anything you want to point to you liked, or anything you definitely want to see? Again, stars, wishes, just to kind of get that set. I think I tried to lean into some of the stuff. We kind of split people up a little bit differently this time, so that was good. Will, let's start with you. Anything you want to say, stars or wishes wise?
Again, I enjoy the dynamic between all of our characters, and I liked all of the tangled web of relationships between everything. So, and I'm a sucker for anything. You know, I don't actually watch Bake Off, but anything that makes it into a RPG setting always gets me laughing. Tim Boosh was the best part. I'm a big Mighty Boosh fan. So.
Oh yeah, Jason wrote the names and they're quite good. So, anything wishes wise you want to point to for next time?
I can't really think of anything. I would like, you know, my usual wish of the mystery. I think it's not really a wish. It's maybe I don't quite. So the base. I think we've crossed the void threshold, the void clue threshold for the conspiracy.
Yes.
So I suppose that's really my only wish is that angle.
Yeah, we had a weird session of fails that got pushed up to middle and middling rolls, and we didn't get any of the kind of push-ups that give us those bigger picture things. So that was interesting.
I will be trying to use the cozy items going forward, and then that would hopefully give us at least a middle one to push up with a crown to a 12+.
Yeah.
Maybe get a void clue by the end of the session.
Absolutely. Bobby, Dan, stars, wishes.
I have always wanted to combine two things that I love: role-playing games and food, and this was so good. I really appreciated Scott's descriptions of his pastries, especially. So star there. I'm getting the hang of the game, I think. So wishes for me next time. I definitely want to try some Crown of the Void stuff. Yeah, that's really it.
Okay. No, I think that's absolutely spot on. Violet, Sabine?
Yeah, I like the session as well. It was good fun, and getting to know these ladies better was nice. Scott, Ruby jumping out of the window and breaking her leg, poor thing. And I would like to have more cozy moves, especially now, because I mean, poor thing Ruby. We need to make more cozy moves to get ourselves into a better place, maybe even a better headspace, because poor Rosemary. That will go well because we have already the shadow crown void thingy going. But yeah, well.
Absolutely. And Scott, Ruby?
I'd like to star all the puns, which was really great. It gave us some Noel Fielding feel, and also along with what Dan said, one of my favorite cozy writers is Charlotte McLeod, and she has these entire novels where there's been murders going on, and everybody's just talking about the food they're eating and baking and making. It's great. It's just this classic cozy thing. Where this happened, but let's cook. So I loved that. That was the setup.
Anything else?
And wishes just to get more void stuff out. You know, get the creepiness moving.
Yeah, yeah, we will definitely push on that. We did end up in one of those weird things with the PBTA game. If you hit the middle rung, you get a little bit of stuff, but you don't get the highs or the lows. So that
Yep.
it's interesting to see how the dynamic changes in play based on that. But that's a really good thing. We will see about that. I definitely want to get more of the void out there because I enjoy it, and we've got a lot of ominous threads out there. Well, with that, I'm going to stop recording.